Amelia Reeves looked through the thick glass at the alien woman who floated in a clear liquid. 15 years working with alien life forms had not prepared her for this discovery. The alien had been found drifting in space, alone in a strange crystal ship that seemed both alive and machine at the same time. The alien looked almost human, but with key differences that made Amelia's scientific mind race with questions. Her skin had a blue shine that changed colors slightly when light hit it from different angles. Instead of hair, she had thousands of glowing strands that moved slowly in the liquid, like sea plants moving with ocean currents. These strands reacted when the doctors brought electrical equipment near the tank, reaching out as if trying to touch the devices. "Any changes today, Dr. Reeves?" asked Captain Gordon as he entered the lab. Amelia shook her head. 3 months and she hasn't moved. The only sign she's alive is that her body temperature drops sharply. Whenever anyone gets close to the tank, the rest of the research team had started calling the alien Frost because of this strange reaction, but Amelia refused to use the nickname. It felt disrespectful to label someone who might be the last of her kind with such a casual name. "Command is getting impatient," Captain Gordon said, his voice low. "They want results, especially about the weapons we found on her ship." Amelia frowned. When they had found the alien's damaged ship, they discovered a room filled with devices that their tests showed could break apart matter at the molecular level. The military leaders were excited about what this technology could do for Earth's defenses. Amelia was more interested in who the alien was and why she traveled alone in such a well-armed vessel. "She's not just some technology we can take apart," Amelia argued. "She's a living being from a civilization far more advanced than ours. We should be trying to communicate, not treating her like a lab specimen." Captain Gordon's face hardened. "The diplomats have tried every known language and signal pattern. She doesn't respond. Commander Blake wants to move to more direct methods of study next week." Amelia knew what that meant. Invasive testing, surgery, perhaps even dissection if the alien continued to show no response. The thought made her stomach turn. "Give me 1 more week with her," she pleaded. "Let me try a different approach." The captain looked skeptical but nodded. 1 week. Then she goes to the main research facility. After the captain left, Amelia stayed late into the night, studying the readings from the alien's brain activity. There were patterns there, complex and beautiful, suggesting not sleep but deep thought. Whatever this being was, her mind was active, perhaps even aware of everything happening around her. The next few days, Amelia tried every communication method she could think of. Light patterns, sound waves, even simple picture cards held up to the tank. Nothing worked. The alien remained still, only the slight movement of her glowing tendrils showing she was alive. On the 6th day, during a shift change when Amelia found herself alone in the lab, she did something she knew broke every protocol. She approached the tank, placed her hand against the glass, and spoke not as a scientist but as one living being to another. "I'm sorry about all this," she whispered. "I wish we could understand each other. I wish I could help you get home, wherever that is." For a moment, nothing happened. Then all 3 of the alien's eyes opened at once. Amelia stumbled back, her heart racing. The alien was looking directly at her, the eyes an impossible violet color with pupils shaped like diamonds. The temperature in the room plummeted so quickly that Amelia's breath came out as white mist. The alien raised a 6-fingered hand and pressed it against the glass exactly where Amelia's hand had been moments before. The glowing tendrils of her hair moved with purpose now, reaching toward the top of the tank. Amelia should have called for security. She should have followed protocol. Instead, she found herself moving to the control panel that regulated the tank. With shaking fingers, she lowered the liquid level and opened the top seal. The glowing tendrils emerged first, rising like snakes being charmed from a basket. They moved through the air with grace, some reaching toward the ceiling lights, others toward the computers, and several toward Amelia herself. As the liquid drained completely, the alien stood for the first time. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with a slender frame that seemed too delicate to support itself in Earth's gravity. Yet she stood without effort, her 3 eyes still fixed on Amelia. "Can you understand me?" Amelia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The alien tilted her head, the movement strangely human. Then, to Amelia's shock, one of the glowing tendrils touched her forehead. Images flooded Amelia's mind. A planet with 3 moons, cities built from the same crystal material as the ship, a terrible war with shadow beings that moved between dimensions, and a name not spoken but somehow known, Lyra. Lyra, Amelia said out loud, testing the name. The alien's eyes widened and the room grew even colder. More tendrils reached out, not touching Amelia but forming a web of light around her. Then Lyra's mouth opened, and though no sound came out, Amelia heard words in her mind. You carry the blood of my people. You are the one I have searched for across the stars. The security alarm began to blare before Amelia could respond. On the monitors, she could see armed guards rushing toward the lab. Commander Blake himself was leading them. They'll hurt you, Amelia said urgently. We need to get you back to your ship. Lyra's response came clearly in Amelia's mind. Yes, the luminary will protect us both. But once we go there, everything will change. Your world will know it is not alone, and that greater dangers than they can imagine wait in the darkness between stars. Amelia looked at the monitor again, 20 seconds until the guards reached them. She made her decision and held out her hand to the alien. Then let's go. Lyra reached out, hesitated for just a moment, then placed her 6-fingered hand in Amelia's. The touch was ice cold, but Amelia didn't pull away. Something ancient and powerful passed between them in that moment. A connection that would change the fate of two species forever. The halls of the research facility were empty as Amelia led Lyra through them. The alien moved with strange grace despite her long time in stasis. Her feet barely seemed to touch the ground. The glowing tendrils of her hair floated around her head, some of them stretching ahead as if searching for danger. We need to hurry, Amelia said, checking the security pad on her wrist. The screen showed red dots moving toward them from several directions. They've locked down the building. Lyra's voice came directly into Amelia's mind. The ship is calling to me. It knows I am awake. They reached a heavy metal door marked Restricted Area Alien Artifacts. Amelia pressed her ID card against the scanner, but the light stayed red. They've already revoked my access, she muttered. Lyra gently moved Amelia aside. She placed her 6-fingered hand on the scanner. The tendrils of her hair stretched out and seemed to melt into the electronic panel. After a few seconds, the door slid open. How did you do that? Amelia asked in amazement. Your technology is simple, primitive. There was no judgment in Lyra's mental voice, just a statement of fact. My people merged with our machines long ago. The large room beyond held pieces of Lyra's ship that had been removed for study. Crystal panels, strange devices that hummed with energy, and in the center what looked like a pilot's chair made of the same living crystal as the rest of the ship. Lyra moved quickly to the chair and placed her hands on the armrests. Immediately, the crystal began to glow and all the separate pieces in the room vibrated in response. The luminary still lives, Lyra said, relief clear in her mental voice, but it is damaged. We must reunite it with its heart. Its heart? Amelia asked, the power source. What your people would call an engine, though it is much more. It is alive in its way. The door behind them burst open. 4 guards entered, weapons raised. Commander Blake stepped in behind them, his face hard with anger. Step away from the alien technology, Dr. Reeves, he ordered. You are in violation of at least 15 security protocols. Amelia stood her ground between the guards and Lyra. Commander, she's intelligent and peaceful. We can communicate with her. There's no need for weapons. Blake's expression didn't change. That thing is not what you think it is, Doctor. It's a weapon itself, the advanced scout for an invasion. We've suspected this since we found the ship. That's not true, Amelia said, but doubt crept into her voice. How could Blake be so certain? Ask it about the Stellaris Dominion, Blake said. Ask it about what they did to other worlds before they came here. Amelia turned to Lyra, questions forming in her mind. Before she could ask them, Lyra's tendrils reached out and touched her face. A flood of memories filled Amelia's mind. She saw a civilization of beings like Lyra, peaceful and advanced, exploring the stars. She saw them finding Earth thousands of years ago, studying the early humans with curiosity and care. She saw them leaving behind certain technologies hidden in natural formations and altering the genetic code of some humans, planting seeds for the future. Then she saw the coming of the Void Harbingers, creatures of shadow that moved between dimensions, consuming entire worlds. She witnessed a terrible war that spanned galaxies. The final stand of the Stellaris on their homeworld. The desperate plan to send survivors to worlds they had visited, seeking allies with the genetic markers they had left behind. And she saw Lyra, volunteering to travel to the furthest world, Earth, alone in a warship disguised as a scientific vessel. Her mission: to find the humans who carried Stellaris genes and prepare them for the coming war. When the vision ended, Amelia was on her knees, tears streaming down her face. They weren't invaders, she whispered. They were running from something worse, something that's still coming. Don't believe the aliens' tricks, Blake said, stepping forward. But something was wrong with his voice. It seemed to echo, as if two people were speaking at once. Lyra's tendrils suddenly stood straight up, pointing at Blake. Harbinger, she projected. The mental word filled with horror and rage. The commander smiled. But the expression was wrong somehow, too wide, too many teeth. Clever Stellaris. But too late. We've been here for decades, preparing. Your precious genetic experiments are already under our control. As he spoke, his skin seemed to ripple, showing glimpses of something dark and formless underneath. The guards next to him didn't react, their eyes strangely empty. Amelia, Lyra projected urgently. We must reach the ship's heart. It's in the secure vault 2 levels down. Blake, or whatever was wearing Blake's form, raised his hand. The guards took aim at Lyra. Without thinking, Amelia threw herself in front of the alien. Run! She shouted. What happened next was too fast to follow. Lyra's tendrils shot forward, wrapping around the guards' weapons. The guns froze instantly, covered in a layer of ice that made them useless. At the same time, the crystal chair behind Lyra pulsed with light, sending a shockwave that knocked everyone except Amelia and Lyra to the ground. Lyra grabbed Amelia's hand, pulling her toward a door at the back of the lab. This way, the heart calls to me. They raced through the facility, alarms blaring around them. Twice they encountered more guards, but each time, Lyra's control over cold and the strange powers of her hair-like tendrils allowed them to escape without hurting anyone. Finally, they reached a heavy vault door marked with radiation warnings. Lyra placed her hand on it and the metal frosted over instantly. Stand back, she warned Amelia. With a gesture, Lyra sent a pulse of energy through the door. It shattered like glass, revealing a small room beyond. In the center, floating in a containment field, was a pulsing crystal the size of a human heart. Unlike the pale blue of the ship parts, this crystal glowed with all the colors of a nebula, shifting and changing as they watched. The heart of the luminary, Lyra said with reverence. With this, we can restart the ship and warn your people of what's coming. As Lyra approached the crystal, Amelia noticed something strange. On her wrist, where her ID badge displayed her genetic profile for security purposes, the normally green display was now pulsing with the same rainbow colors as the ship's heart. Lyra, she said slowly, you said your people left genetic markers in some humans. Is that why I can hear you in my mind when others can't? Lyra turned to her, all 3 eyes blinking in sequence. You are more than that, Amelia Reeves. You are a direct descendant of a Stellaris who chose to remain on Earth. That is why I was drawn to your facility after my ship was damaged. That is why the Luminary will respond to you as it does to me. Amelia tried to process this information. You're saying I'm part alien? I am saying you are the bridge between our worlds, the key to saving both our species. Lyra held out her hand toward the ship's heart. Touch it with me and you will understand. Behind them, they could hear the heavy footsteps of more security forces. Whatever Blake really was, he was determined to stop them. Amelia looked at the pulsing crystal, then at the alien woman who had turned her world upside down in less than a day. She made her choice and reached out her hand. Together, their fingers touched the heart of the ship. Light exploded around them and the crystal rose from its containment field. It hovered between them, spinning faster and faster until it was a blur of color and energy. Lyra's tendrils and Amelia's hair both floated upward, as if gravity had been suspended. The luminary accepts us both. Lyra's voice echoed in Amelia's mind, stronger than before. Now we must find the rest of the ship before the harbingers stop us. As the security team burst through the broken vault door, the crystal heart flashed blindingly bright. When the light faded, both women and the crystal were gone, leaving behind only a coating of frost on every surface of the room. Amelia opened her eyes to find herself standing in a crystal chamber. The walls pulsed with soft blue light that seemed to follow the rhythm of her heartbeat. The ship's heart floated between her and Lyra, spinning slowly, throwing rainbow colors across the room. Where are we? Amelia asked, her voice echoing strangely. Inside the luminary, Lyra answered, her mental voice now as clear as if she were speaking aloud. The ship brought us to itself. It has been waiting, hidden beneath the waters near your facility. Amelia walked to what appeared to be a window. Outside was the dark blue of ocean water. Fish swam past, scattering when they came too close to the ship's hull. "We're at the bottom of the ocean?" she asked in amazement. "How did we get here?" "The luminary can move between spaces in ways your science cannot yet explain," Lyra said. She approached the ship's heart and gestured. The crystal moved to a circular opening in the center of the room and settled into place. Immediately, the entire chamber brightened, and the walls began to show moving images, star maps, diagrams of the ship, and what looked like battle plans. "Now I can show you what we face," Lyra said. The images changed to show shadow-like creatures moving between stars. They had no fixed form, shifting and changing as they moved. When they touched a planet, the world seemed to darken, as if life itself was being drained away. "The Void Harbingers," Lyra explained. "They exist partly in this dimension and partly in others. They feed on the energy of living worlds. They destroyed my civilization 500 years ago. Only a few of us escaped, traveling to distant worlds where we had left genetic markers in developing species." "Like humans," Amelia said. "Yes. My people visited Earth when humans were still living in caves. We saw potential in your species: adaptability, creativity, resilience. We added certain genes to some human populations, hoping that if we ever needed allies, your kind might be ready." The images shifted again, showing human history from an outside perspective: the rise and fall of civilizations, the development of technology, wars and peace. We watched from afar, not interfering directly. Then the Harbingers found us, and most of my kind were destroyed. Those of us who escaped scattered across the galaxy. I was sent here because our scientists detected unusual activity, Harbinger scout ships arriving decades before we expected them to find Earth. Amelia thought of Commander Blake, his skin rippling to reveal something dark underneath. "They're already here, aren't they?" "Disguised as humans?" Lyra nodded, her three eyes blinking in that strange sequence again. "Yes. They cannot fully exist in your dimension yet, but they can possess and control humans in positions of power. They have been preparing Earth for consumption, weakening it from within." "How do we stop them?" Amelia asked. "The Luminary is not just a ship. It is a weapon designed to fight the Harbingers. It can reach into their dimension and destroy them, but to use it at full power requires a mental link that is too much for one mind to handle." "That's why you need me," Amelia realized. "Because I have the Stellaris genes. Yes, together our minds might be strong enough to control the ship's weapons. But first we must complete the link." Lyra turned fully toward Amelia. For the first time, Amelia really looked at the alien woman. Despite her blue skin, extra eye, and glowing tendrils, there was something familiar about her features. Amelia could almost see a family resemblance, as strange as that seemed. "How do we complete the link?" she asked. "Through contact," Lyra said. "My people communicate and share consciousness through our neural tendrils. But I have not linked with another being in over 500 years. I am afraid." Amelia was surprised to hear the emotion in Lyra's mental voice. "Afraid of what?" "That the connection will overwhelm you. That your human brain, despite its Stellaris genes, will not be able to handle the flood of information and memory. Or that I have been alone so long that I have forgotten how to share consciousness properly." The vulnerability in Lyra's admission touched Amelia deeply. Here was a being from an advanced civilization, the last of her kind, afraid of making a mistake that might hurt someone else. "We have to try," Amelia said gently. "The Harbingers know we're here now. They'll come for us and for the ship." Lyra nodded. "You are right." She moved closer, her tendrils floating around her head like a crown of light. "I notice your eyes keep moving to my tendrils." Amelia blushed. "I'm sorry. They're just so beautiful and strange. They are the external part of my neural network. They allow me to connect with technology, with other beings, and to sense energies your kind cannot perceive." Lyra tilted her head. Would you like to touch them?" The question seemed oddly intimate, making Amelia hesitate. "Is that appropriate?" "I mean, are they sensitive?" "Very, but that is how the connection must begin. Physical contact, then mental. The tendrils have been dormant for so long. They need to be awakened." Amelia stepped closer. The tendrils moved toward her like curious snakes, some brushing her cheeks so lightly she could barely feel them. They were cool but not cold and left a tingling sensation on her skin. They're tangled, Amelia observed. Some of the glowing strands were knotted together, dimmer than the others. Does that hurt? No, but it blocks the flow of neural energy. I cannot fix them myself. The tendrils cannot easily manipulate each other. Without thinking, Amelia reached up. May I? Lyra's eyes widened, but she nodded once. Gently, Amelia took one of the tangled sections between her fingers. The tendrils were smooth, like cool silk, but they seemed to have a faint pulse running through them. Carefully, she began to work at the knot, separating the strands one by one. As she worked, she noticed the tendrils growing brighter. The ones she had untangled began to move with more purpose, some of them curling around her fingers like affectionate cats. Is this okay? She asked, pausing. Yes, Lyra's voice in her mind was softer now, almost dreamy. It has been so long since anyone touched me. I had forgotten. Encouraged, Amelia continued, working her way through all the tangled sections. It was like brushing hair, but the hair responded to her touch, sometimes helping her find the next knot, sometimes just curling around her wrists and arms in what seemed like contentment. She was so focused on her task that she didn't immediately notice when Lyra went completely still. It wasn't until she had finished with the last tangle that she looked at the alien's face and realized something was wrong. Lyra stood frozen, not even blinking, her three eyes fixed on some distant point. The tendrils had stopped moving as well, extended outward like rays of light from her head. Lyra? Amelia asked, alarmed. Lyra, are you okay? For several terrifying seconds there was no response. Then suddenly every surface of the ship lit up with projections. Star maps, alien text, schematics, and images of Earth from orbit filled the room. In the center of it all, the ship's heart began to spin faster, its colors intensifying. Amelia felt a presence in her mind, vastly larger than before. It wasn't just Lyra now. It was the ship itself, and through it glimpses of the entire Stellaris civilization. Memories not her own flowed through her consciousness. Childhood on a world with 3 moons, training as a warrior, the horror of watching her homeworld fall to the harbingers, centuries of lonely travel through the void. And with those memories came knowledge. How the ship worked, how to use its weapons, how to spot a harbinger hiding in human form. Most importantly, she understood why Lyra had frozen. The neural connection had formed too quickly, overloading her conscious mind and forcing her into a protective state. I need to bring her back, Amelia thought, and somehow knew what to do. She placed both hands on Lyra's face, her fingers gently touching the base of the tendrils where they emerged from the alien's scalp. Closing her eyes, she focused on pushing her own consciousness outward, searching for Lyra's mind in the overwhelming flood of information. Lyra, she called, not with her voice, but with her thoughts. Lyra, follow my voice. Come back to yourself. Slowly, she felt a response like a distant echo growing stronger. Lyra's consciousness found hers, clinging to it like a lifeline in a storm. Together, they began to organize the chaotic flow of information, sorting memories and knowledge into manageable patterns. When Amelia opened her eyes, Lyra was looking at her, all 3 eyes focused and aware again. The tendrils had begun to move once more, many of them now wrapped gently around Amelia's arms and shoulders. You saved me, Lyra said, her mental voice filled with wonder. The connection overwhelmed me, just as I feared. But you found me in the chaos. I think, Amelia said slowly, trying to make sense of the new knowledge in her mind. That's why your people chose mine. We're good at finding patterns in chaos. A sudden alarm sound filled the chamber. The images around them shifted to show the ocean surface above. Military ships had gathered, and divers were beginning to descend toward their location. They found us, Amelia said. Not just your military, Lyra warned. Look, the image zoomed in on one of the ships. Standing on the deck was Commander Blake, but he no longer bothered with his human disguise. His form shifted constantly, sometimes looking human, sometimes like a living shadow with too many limbs. Around him stood other officers, their eyes black from edge to edge. The Harbingers have taken control of your military leaders, Lyra said. They will try to destroy the luminary before we can use it against them. The luminary broke through the ocean surface like a leviathan awakening from ancient slumber. Water cascaded off its crystal hull, catching the sunlight and throwing rainbows across the military ships that surrounded it. The vessel was larger than Amelia had imagined, nearly the size of an aircraft carrier. but shaped like a massive arrowhead. Inside the control chamber, Amelia and Lyra stood side by side, their minds joined through the neural link. Amelia could feel the ship as if it were an extension of her own body. She sensed its powerful engines, its sophisticated navigation systems, and most importantly, its weapons, designed specifically to combat the Void Harbingers. "They're targeting us," Amelia said, seeing through the ship's sensors that missiles were being prepared on the military vessels below. "Let them," Lyra replied through their mental connection. "Conventional weapons cannot harm the Luminary, but we must be careful not to harm the humans. Many of them are innocent, following orders without knowing their leaders are possessed." The first missiles launched, streaking toward the hovering ship. Before Amelia could panic, Lyra guided their joined consciousness to activate the Luminary's defensive systems. A field of energy surrounded the ship, causing the missiles to dissolve into harmless particles before they could impact. "We need to show everyone what's really happening," Amelia said. "People need to know about the Harbingers," Lyra agreed. Through their connection, they directed the ship to broadcast on all frequencies: radio, television, internet, military channels. Everywhere humans might be listening. "People of Earth," Amelia began, her voice carried by the ship's communication systems. "My name is Dr. Amelia Reeves. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but it's the truth. Earth has been infiltrated by beings from another dimension. They call themselves the Void Harbingers, and they consume worlds. They've taken control of military and government leaders around the globe, disguising themselves as humans." As she spoke, the Luminary projected images into the sky above major cities worldwide, massive holograms showing the true form of the Harbingers, and footage from the research facility of Commander Blake's transformation. "The ship you see is called the Luminary," Amelia continued. "It belongs to another alien species, the Stellaris, who came to Earth long ago. They left genetic markers in some humans, preparing for this day when the Harbingers would find us. I carry those markers, which is why I can connect with this ship and its pilot, Lyra, the last surviving Stellaris warrior." On the military ships below, chaos erupted as soldiers and sailors witnessed the broadcast and looked with new suspicion at their commanders. Some of those commanders began to change, their human disguises failing as they were exposed. "Commander Blake, or whatever you really are," Amelia called out, focusing the broadcast on the lead vessel. "Show yourself. Let humanity see what they're really facing." The figure that had been Blake looked up at the hovering ship, his face contorted with inhuman rage, stretching and tearing to reveal the darkness beneath. Then, with a roar that seemed to come from multiple throats at once, he shed his human form entirely. What stood on the deck now was a creature of living shadow, its shape constantly shifting but roughly humanoid, with too many limbs and eyes that glowed like dying stars. Around him, other officers transformed as well, their bodies melting into similar shadow forms. "Now they will show their true power," Lyra warned. "Prepare yourself." The shadow beings raised their arms in unison. The sky darkened as if storm clouds had gathered from nowhere. The air itself seemed to tear, creating vertical rips in reality through which more shadow creatures began to emerge. "They're opening gateways to their dimension," Lyra explained, her mental voice tight with urgency. "If too many come through, we won't be able to stop them." Through their connection, Amelia understood what needed to be done. The Luminary's primary weapon could seal these dimensional tiers, but it required precise targeting and enormous power that would drain both the ship and its pilots. "We need to get closer," Amelia said. The ship responded to their thoughts, moving toward the largest gateway that was forming above the lead military vessel. As they approached, the shadow beings attacked, launching what looked like spears of dark energy at the Luminary. Most dissolved against the ship's shields, but a few penetrated, sending shudders through the crystal hull. Amelia felt each hit as if it struck her own body, a side effect of her deep connection to the vessel. "Your mind is strong," Lyra observed with admiration. "Most would break under this pressure." Together they activated the ship's countermeasures. Beams of blue-white energy shot from the Luminary's underside, striking the shadow beings directly. Where the light touched, the shadows screamed and dissolved, their forms collapsing into nothingness. But for each one they destroyed, two more emerged from the growing gateways, and Amelia could feel the ship's energy reserves beginning to deplete. "We can't win like this," she realized. "We need to close those gateways." "Yes," Lyra agreed. "But to do that, we must get to the source. the dimension where they originate. We must use the stellar convergence. Through their mental link, Amelia saw what this meant. The luminary could create its own dimensional gateway, one that would lead directly to the Harbinger's home dimension. There, they could use the ship's primary weapon to collapse all connections between the dimensions, trapping the Harbingers in their own realm forever. But there was a cost. Once there, they might never be able to return to Earth, and the strain of creating and maintaining such a gateway might kill them both. Is there no other way? Amelia asked, thinking of her life on Earth, her friends and colleagues at the research facility. Lyra's mental touch was gentle with understanding. There is always another way. We could retreat, try to find more humans with Stellaris genes, build an army, but by then the Harbingers will have fully established themselves. Millions would die. Amelia knew Lyra was right. She made her decision. Let's do it. They directed the luminary higher, rising above the dimensional gateways. The ship began to reconfigure itself, panels of crystal sliding and reshaping to form a massive concave dish at its front. The heart of the ship, the rainbow crystal that powered everything, rose from its chamber to position itself at the center of this dish. Below them, the shadow beings seemed to realize what they were attempting. They abandoned their attacks on the human ships and focused all their energy on the luminary, launching wave after wave of dark energy bolts. The ship's shields began to fail under the assault. Crystal panels cracked and fell away. Amelia felt each hit as pain lancing through her body, but she held the connection steady, pouring her will into maintaining the ship's structural integrity. Lyra's tendrils wrapped more tightly around Amelia, providing support as they both channeled their mental energy into the heart of the ship. The rainbow crystal began to spin faster and faster, its light intensifying until it was painful to look at directly. Almost ready, Lyra said, her mental voice strained with effort. When the gateway opens, we must go through immediately. The Harbingers will try to follow. Amelia felt a moment of doubt. What if we can't close it from the other side? Then Earth falls and the Harbingers move on to consume more worlds. Lyra's mental voice became softer. I am sorry to bring this burden to your world, Amelia Reeves. Your people should have had centuries more to develop before facing this threat. Don't apologize, Amelia replied. If you hadn't come, we would have had no warning at all. The crystal reached its maximum spin rate. Energy built up around the ship, creating a sphere of blinding light. The shadow beings below redoubled their assault, sensing the danger. One particularly powerful blast broke through the weakened shields, striking the control chamber directly. The crystal walls cracked, and Amelia felt something tear in her mind as the neural connection wavered. Hold on, Lyra cried, her tendrils glowing brightly as she poured more of her own mental energy into maintaining the link. Amelia fought through the pain, focusing on the task at hand. She thought of Earth, of all the people going about their daily lives unaware of how close they were to extinction. She thought of the Stellaris wiped out by these same shadow creatures, and she found new strength now, she shouted both aloud and mentally. The heart of the ship released its built-up energy in a single massive pulse. The light shot forward, tearing a hole in reality itself. Beyond the tear, they could see another dimension, a place of swirling darkness lit by dying stars, where shadow forms moved in countless numbers. The luminary surged forward, entering the dimensional gateway. Behind them, the shadow beings on Earth howled in rage and fear, some attempting to follow, others fleeing back through their own gateways. As they crossed the boundary between dimensions, Amelia felt the laws of physics change. Her body seemed both heavier and lighter at the same time. Colors shifted, becoming both more vivid and somehow wrong. The air, if it could be called that, felt thick and resistant, and her mind expanded in ways she couldn't have imagined. The neural connection with Lyra deepened until she could no longer tell where her thoughts ended, and the aliens began. They became a single consciousness, their memories and knowledge merging into something greater than either had been alone. The transformation was both beautiful and terrifying. Amelia felt her physical form dissolving, merging with Lyra and the ship in a cascade of light and sensation. Her consciousness expanded until it encompassed the entire vessel. She was aware of every crystal panel, every energy conduit, every weapon system, and at the same time she was aware of Lyra, not as a separate being anymore, but as another aspect of herself. They were becoming something new. The luminary responded to this ultimate union, its structure reshaping around them. The broken hull reassembled itself, crystal flowing like water to form new patterns. The separate chambers and corridors merged into a single unified space. At the center of it all, where Amelia and Lyra had stood, a new form took shape. Neither fully human nor fully Stellaris, but a perfect blend of both. This new being stood tall, her skin a swirl of human flesh tones and Stellaris blue. Her hair was a crown of glowing tendrils that extended throughout the ship's systems. She had 3 eyes, 2 human, 1 Stellaris, that saw across multiple dimensions at once. And she radiated power unlike anything that had existed before. The shadow beings sensed the change. Their attacks faltered as uncertainty spread through their ranks. This was not a threat they recognized, not something their collective memory had encountered before. The merged being, Amelia Lyra Luminary, spoke with a voice that resonated across dimensions. "We are the bridge. We stand between worlds, and you shall go no further." With a thought, they activated the ship's primary weapon, the stellar convergence. The crystal structure around them hummed with building energy, drawing power not just from the ship's systems but from the very fabric of space-time itself. The shadow beings renewed their assault, desperate now. Thousands of dark energy bolts struck the ship simultaneously, but they no longer caused damage. Instead, the bridge being absorbed the energy, redirecting it into the convergence weapon. "You consumed the Stellaris," the bridge said, addressing the collective consciousness of the Harbingers. "You devoured countless worlds, and now you threaten Earth. No more." They directed the ship toward the central structure, the nexus of all-dimensional gateways created by the Harbingers. Shadow beings moved to block their path, some merging into massive forms that dwarfed the luminary, but nothing could stop their advance. The ship cut through the darkness like a blade of pure light. Where they passed, the shadow beings dissolved, their energy reclaimed by the natural order of their dimension. The bridge felt no satisfaction in this destruction, only a deep sense of restoring balance to a universe the Harbingers had thrown into chaos. As they approached the central nexus, they faced the oldest and most powerful of the Harbingers, beings that had existed for millennia, consuming civilizations across multiple galaxies. These ancient shadows took forms that resembled giant, twisted versions of creatures from countless worlds they had destroyed, a grotesque museum of extinct life. One shadow being larger than the others moved forward. When it spoke, its voice entered their mind like ice water. "You cannot stop what has already begun," it said. "Earth is marked. If not by us, then by others. Your world sits at a dimensional crossroads. It was always destined to fall." The bridge did not respond with words. Instead, they opened their awareness, showing the ancient Harbinger the full truth of what they had become. Not just a weapon, but a new form of consciousness that could exist across dimensions, understanding both human and Stellaris perspectives while transcending both. "Impossible," the Ancient One recoiled. "The primitive humans could not achieve such evolution." "Not alone," the bridge acknowledged, "but together we are more than the sum of our parts. That is what you could never understand, Harbinger. In consuming worlds, you take their energy, but lose their wisdom, their unique perspective. You grow in power but diminish in understanding." They had reached the central nexus now, a massive structure of dark crystal that pulsed with negative energy. From here, all dimensional gateways were controlled and maintained, allowing the Harbingers to spread across countless realities. The ancient shadow beings formed a last defensive ring around the nexus, their forms merging into a wall of darkness that seemed impenetrable. "Even if you destroy this nexus," the Ancient One warned, "you will be trapped here. You will never see Earth again." Inside the merged consciousness of the bridge, Amelia's human aspect felt a moment of grief at this truth. She thought of the blue skies of Earth, of forests and oceans, of human connection and love. Lyra's aspect shared memories of her own homeworld, the 3 moons rising over crystal cities, the songs of her people echoing across mountain ranges. "We know the cost," the bridge responded. "We accept it." They activated the final stage of the stellar convergence. The entire ship began to glow, not just with light but with a more fundamental energy, the power of creation itself, channeled from the heart of the cosmos. This was the ultimate weapon of the Stellaris, designed not just to destroy but to heal dimensional breaches by restoring natural barriers. The shadow wall attacked, dark tendrils attempting to breach the ship's structure. The bridge felt each impact as pressure against their unified consciousness, but they held firm. Their focus remained on the nexus, gathering more and more energy for the final strike. When the convergence reached full power, the bridge extended their awareness one last time, touching minds across dimensions. On Earth, human leaders and ordinary citizens alike paused as they felt a gentle presence brush against their thoughts, offering reassurance and warning in equal measure. Remember, the bridge sent to humanity. Remember that you are not alone in the cosmos. Remember that some threats come from beyond your reality. Remember us. Then they released the stellar convergence. Light erupted from the luminary, not in a beam or pulse, but in an expanding sphere of pure creation energy. It engulfed the shadow wall, the ancient harbingers, and finally the nexus itself. Where it touched, it didn't destroy so much as realign, restoring the natural barriers between dimensions that the harbingers had broken down over millennia. The nexus began to collapse, its dark crystal structure breaking apart not into fragments, but into pure energy that was reabsorbed by the dimension itself. All around them, the gateways to other worlds began to close. First, the newest ones leading to Earth, then older passages to worlds long consumed. The harbingers howled in rage and desperation as they found themselves trapped, cut off from their feeding grounds. Some fled into the darkness of their own dimension. Others dissolved entirely, their existence dependent on the energy they stole from other realities. As the last gateway closed, the bridge felt the dimensional barriers solidify. Earth was safe, at least from this particular threat. The harbingers would take thousands of years to break through again if they ever could. But the cost was as expected. They were trapped in this shadow dimension, with no way to return home. Inside their merged consciousness, human grief met Stellaris acceptance. They had known this would happen. They had chosen this path willingly, and yet something unexpected was occurring. As the dimensional barrier solidified, the energy of the stellar convergence continued to expand and work. It wasn't just closing breaches, it was healing the fabric of reality itself. And in that healing, new possibilities emerged. The bridge felt at first as a gentle tug, then as a definite pull. A pathway was forming. Not a breach or gateway, but a natural connection between points in the multiverse where similar energies existed. The convergence hadn't just restored barriers. It had revealed the natural bridges that had always existed between compatible realities. We can go home, they realized. Not as we were, but as we are now. The luminary, responding to their thoughts, moved toward this new pathway. As they approached, they felt the nature of the shadow dimension begin to fade, replaced by the familiar physics of their home reality. The darkness gave way to the star-filled vacuum of space. Ahead of them, a small blue-green planet orbited its yellow star, Earth. 3 months had passed in their absence. 3 months during which humanity had fought its own battles against the remaining harbinger forces left behind. Without their central nexus and dimensional connections, these shadow beings had weakened and eventually been defeated. But the knowledge of what existed beyond their reality had changed human civilization forever. The luminary appeared in Earth orbit, its crystal structure catching sunlight and creating a spectacle visible from the ground. Military satellites detected their arrival immediately, and communication channels lit up with urgent messages. This is Earth Defense Command to unknown vessel. Identify yourself. The bridge considered how to respond. They were neither Amelia nor Lyra anymore, yet they were still both. They were something new, a consciousness that bridged species, dimensions, and perspectives. This is the luminary, they replied simply. We have returned. Confusion and hope filled the communications. Dr. Reeves, is that you? In part, they answered. I am changed. We are changed, but we come in peace and friendship. As the luminary descended into Earth's atmosphere, the bridge looked through the ship's sensors at the world below. Much had changed in 3 months. Nations had put aside old conflicts to face the common threat.